awesome as I wanna be. Awesome as I wanna be. Awesome as I wanna be.
Hello everypony, I am Critical Thought and welcome to my review of Castlemania. This episode features the writing debut of one Josh Haber, who, in recent years, has become solidified as one of the titans of MLP's writing staff, right alongside the likes of M.A. Larson and Megan McCarthy. Hahowever, it all started for him here with this episode, the first proper 22-minute episode of Season 4 following the season premiere. Sure, everyone loves Mr. Haber now, but was his debut episode worthy of the legacy that followed it? Let's find out. We kick off this episode in the Golden Oaks library, with Twilight and Spike trying to find out any little bit of information they could on the box that appeared under the Tree of Harmony at the end of the season premiere. Damn, that continuity though! That is definitely one of the standout story elements from this season. The mystery box makes nearly every episode serialized and services a bigger plot than just the singular main plot of the episode. Just then, Spike burps out a letter from Princess Celestia. She tells Twilight in her letter that she might have better luck of finding a book that uncovers the mysteries of this magical box if she looks in the ruins of Celestia and Luna's old castle.
Wow, look at all these ancient books. It's a veritable gold mine of information. I can't believe it. Woohoo!
Can you imagine if the internet was a thing in Equestria? Twilight would probably explode from excitement with all the knowledge at her hooves. Twi is absolutely ecstatic about the information contained in the castle library, but Spike is creeped out by all the terrifying statues and spiders running around, foreshadowing the rest of the episode very nicely before we transitioned into theme. Meanwhile, back in Ponyville, AJ and Rainbow are, oh dear God, not the bees!
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah!
I hate bees. AJ, Rainbow, you're insane. Turns out the reason for this insanity is that Applejack and Rainbow Dash are competing for who is the most daring pony, with Pinkie Pie acting as a judge. Girls, I think a certain RD recolor has already claimed that title. Since the bees being used in the challenge were property of a local beekeeper who showed up and demanded his bees back, Rainbow and AJ are unable to crown a winner in their little competition and decide they need to come up with an alternate finale. That's when AJ gets the idea from looking towards the Everfree Forest that they spend the night in the Royal Sisters' old castle. Speaking of the castle, for a third time, Rarity, Fluttershy, and Angel are walking through the forest towards the ruins as Rarity explains that she wants to salvage the old tapestries from the castle and restore them to their former beauty. As they trot up to the castle, Angel Bunny goes running in, so Fluttershy chases after him with Rarity trailing not that far behind, with a mysterious shadow following them as well. Ah yes, right on time, the mysterious antagonist for this episode. Welcome, please have a seat next to the vines from the last episode. Soon after Flutters reunites with Angel in the castle and follows Rarity to the tapestries, Twilight and Spike walk into the same room that the other girls were just in. Twi tells Spike that the candles she's holding aren't for quelling his fears of the castle, but to light the room where she plans to be studying all night long. After they pass by, Rainbow and AJ arrive at the castle where AJ details her new dare to stay in the ruins overnight to Dashi, filling her in on the spooky story of the Pony of Shadows to get her in the right mood to brave the creepiness of the building. The legend goes that when Nightmare Moon was banished to the moon, a little bit of her dark magic stayed in the castle where it would haunt any pony who dared to be in the building at night.
You mean like a ghost?
No pony knows.
I have never been more happy to see a piece of reused animation in all my life. This is such a fantastic callback to Look Before You Sleep from Season 1. Obviously, this little sequence shows that none of the three groups know that the others are there, and with each one containing at least one person who is thoroughly freaked out by the castle, heck, two people if you're AJ and Rainbow, you can kinda already see where the horror and suspense is gonna go in this episode. Fluttershy activates a secret switch when she tries to lift the tapestry Rarity wants off the wall, causing the entire wall to spin around to face the room where AJ and Rainbow currently are. As Flutters tries to struggle with the tapestry from underneath, it freaks out Dashi and AJ and they think it's the doing of the Pony of Shadows, causing them to run off screaming. When Fluttershy activates the switch again and spins the wall back around, she says that she injured her wing while trying to lift the tapestry so she will be unable to fly. This seems like a really convenient way to keep Flutters from flying away at the first little fearful thing she hears or sees, But the bigger question I had on my mind while I was watching this episode was, how did Flutters not hear AJ and Rainbow talking and not realize they were there? No, even better question. How did she not hear them scream and realize she wasn't alone in the castle? I don't care how big and heavy that tapestry is, it's not soundproof. Just as Rarity is warning Flutters that they need to be careful they don't activate any more booby traps, Angel accidentally sets one off, causing both of the girls to fall into a pit. Later, Twilight is studying in the castle library when Angel surprises Spike by jumping up on the table in front of him, causing him to fall back in his chair, which activates another hidden switch that opens up a wall to a secret section of the library. Inside, Twilight finds the Journal of the Two Sisters, a diary that Celestia and Luna both kept when they were growing up together in the castle. AJ and Rainbow are continuing to argue with each other about who is the least scared of the castle as they enter a hallway of disembodied pony legs that are holding shields and spears. It's certainly intriguing that the show staff were allowed by the Hasbro overlords to show something this graphic. It's nothing too particularly gory, but still, disembodied pony body parts. We then catch up with Rarity and Fluttershy as they remain trapped in the pit. Can I just say how impressed I am with the animators here? Look at how amazing this lighting is. They never would have been able to do something like this even just 2 seasons ago. Just then, Rainbow Dash feels a hoof around her neck, thinking it's AJ clinging to her for security. But it isn't. After another reappearance by the mysterious shadowy figure, we see that it was actually Rarity's hoof around her as she was sticking her leg out of a hole in the pit to try to find some kind of switch to set them free. This freaks out Rarity just as much as it does Dashy. Fluttershy eventually finds the switch to spin the wall around, and Rarity proclaims that she's had just about enough of the castle. But Flutters won't let her leave until they find Angel, worrying he could be hurt. He isn't. He's just chilling with Twi and Spike and stuff in his face. The mysterious figure from before is then seen sitting at a pipe organ below the other girls and starts to play. We then cut to... Okay, look, this review is just going to get really boring if I have to keep cutting back between 3 different subplots every 10 seconds. Oh, now you want me to do 6 subplots! So, AJ, Rainbow, Flutters, and Rarity are now separated from each other and off on their own in the castle, continuing to get more and more spooked by the creepy things going on, before they eventually all back into each other in the main throne room and freak each other out one final time. Though I have to admit, seeing Flutter's reaction when she sees a shadow that kinda looks like Angel get crushed by a falling pillar is kinda funny. Does that make me a bad pony for thinking Angel's death is funny? No? Good, because it totally is. I mean, I know it's not really Angel dying here, but just the thought, you know? Hilarious. During this freakout, Twilight finally hears all the commotion and goes to see what is happening. When she sees her friends all screaming and crying, she freezes them in place with her magic. She asks them if they have just been running around all night scaring each other, but they are unsure and instead decide to blame the Pony of Shadows. Twi dismisses the Pony of Shadows as just a story, but suddenly the organ starts to play again and she vows to find out who is playing it. Isn't it obvious? I mean, jeez, who's the only pony who hasn't had a subplot in this castle yet? Still can't figure it out?
Hey, you guys! Did you know I can totally play the organ? Because I didn't! Hey!
Once the main 6 have reconvened in the library, Twi delivers the moral for this episode, that when your imagination starts to run away from you, a good friend will help reel it back in. This moral isn't terrible, but I'm not sure how important it is in the grand scheme of things. We close this episode out with Twilight suggesting that the girls keep a friendship journal themselves, just like Luna and Celestia did back in the day, which of course will be making frequent appearances this season. I quite like this idea, and it further reinforces my theory that Season 4 was sort of a soft reboot for FIM, as it mirrors the letters Twilight and the other main 5 wrote to Celestia during the first couple of seasons.
Shadow ponies? How ridiculous is that?
Oh hey! The Pony of Shadows was real! Too bad this doesn't go anywhere. Into the abyss of abandoned plot threads with you, Spirit. Enjoy your eternal nothingness alongside the concept of the Manhattan CMC. So, what did I think of Castlemania? Josh Haber did not make a good first impression. In fact, for a long time, this is my absolute most hated episode of all time. I don't hold that grudge against it like I used to, but it certainly hasn't changed my mind upon doing this review. If you thought the pacing of Magical Mystery Cure was bad, this episode will literally give you whiplash. No joke, there are legitimately some sections of this episode where we jump between the 3 subplots going on within the span of 30 seconds. The comedy was a complete wash for me too. To me, people being scared just isn't funny. I suppose if you're a sadist who actually enjoys the fear and suffering of others, then maybe you got quite a chuckle out of this episode. But I did not. Even if you wanted to argue that the joke was that they didn't know it was their friends that were scaring them the whole time by accident, I still fail to see the punchline there. The moral was fine. Not terrible, not meaningless, just fine. I just don't really know how useful of a moral it is for children and see even less value in it for adults. However, since it is a moral that works on at least a basic fundamental level, I don't want to clump it in with the morals from Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 or The Cart Before the Ponies. I don't like to only point out the negatives in a review, however, so I do have to give praise to the animators here. The work they did here was some of their absolute best, beat out by only a couple other episodes this season. That's not enough to save this episode though, so I'm giving it a skip it rating. This season overall is fairly good and even includes some of my favorite episodes of all time, but it's best to ignore how it stumbled out of the gate with these first few episodes. As always, I am Critical Thought and I will see you all in my next video. Never stop thinking critically.